Hey graphic designers, this is Mr. Granley here. I'm going to take you through the second tutorial in our introductory unit, the Recolor tutorial. Now inside of Photoshop, recoloring stuff happens all the time, and this is by no means the end-all be-all recoloring tutorial of all time. I'm going to show you three methods for recoloring a picture, and you're going to find a picture and dig in. So let's go find a picture first. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and so here we are. We got something from Battlefront 2. This looks sweet. Again, whenever I'm searching for pictures on Google, I'm using the tools in my Google search. I'm going to images larger than at least 2 megapixels. Oftentimes 4 megapixels is a little bit better. Okay, so right click, copy an image. And it does not have to be a Star Wars picture that you turn in for this. It can be whatever picture you want, as long as it's appropriate, of course. I'm going to flip over to Photoshop. I'm going to go to Create New. Now this is kind of interesting. When I create a new thing, the first setting that comes up is something called Clipboard. And you'll see it's automatically sensed the size of the image that I got from the internet. Now if we look at the resolution, it's 72. So normally pictures on the internet have a resolution of 72 pixels per inch, and they look perfectly fine on a screen. However, when you print off a picture that's 72 dpi, or pixels per inch, dots per inch, it looks really grainy. So I'm going to actually switch this up a little bit. I'm going to change this from pixels to inches, and I'm going to change this now 26 by 15 inches. That's huge, okay? And we're actually going to kind of half that. So 13 by 7.5. And then we'll do a resolution of 300. Okay, so that whenever we print this off, it's going to look really sharp. And I'm going to change this to Recolor. Okay, I'm going to paste this in here, and you're going to notice, hey, it didn't fill up the entire page. So you're right. And so we're going to have to stretch this out, which means that the pixels are going to get a little fuzzy-ish. But for an introductory tutorial like this, that's just fine. So I can do Control-T on the keyboard, or you can go to Edit and Free Transform. And when you're pulling this out, don't just click and drag it like a noob. I want you to hold the Shift button and the Alt button. You see what that did there? So the Shift button, what that does is it constrains the proportions so that whenever you're grabbing something, it stays within that proportion. And Alt, when I hold that down too, it kind of makes it zoom. I can drag it and it goes in both directions like that. So I'm going to drag it out so it's big like this. And now the three techniques that you have to use in recoloring this are as follows. So the first one that I want you to use is I want you to select an area. Now you can just select an area like that. You can select an area like that. Or you could even select an area with this quick selection tool. And if you notice the quick selection tool, it kind of finds the edges of the picture pretty nicely. Again, this isn't an end-all be-all tool, but for a beginning tutorial like this, it's a pretty fun one to use. Okay, so I've selected the background, and I'm going to use Image Adjustments, and I'm going to do Hue Saturation. This is the first technique. And you can click on Colorize, and I can change it to any color I want to. So I want to make it more of an orange. What that does, it's a contrasting color to the blue, and it makes it jump out. But I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go green. You can make it whatever color you want. Just colorize it and use hue saturation. Okay, so that's one technique to recoloring things. The second technique that I want you to use when recoloring things is another adjustment thing called black and white. And I'm going to do just the helmet here. We're going to make the helmet black and white. And when using the quick selection tool, you have regular selection plus and minus. So if I selected too much, like that, I can click on the minus here and clean up my selection and subtract that selection away. So I'm just working with the helmet here. All right, now we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Black and White. And you can see we can adjust this a little bit, get slightly different results, but that looks pretty good. We'll click OK. So I got a black and white helmet. That looks pretty sweet. And now for this final part, we're going to use the third technique, and that's underneath the painting tool called the color replacement tool. So find that underneath the painting tool. Get a brush that's a decent size compared to the area that you're going to paint. And what it does is it takes one color. So I hold Alt down and I sample a color that I want to replace. And then I click on the background chip and I'm going to change that to be a different color. So in this case, yellow. Oh, it doesn't do anything at first here. So let's actually flip this around. So now I have yellow in the foreground color and blue in the background color. And now when I paint, it takes all the blue pixels and it changes them to yellow pixels. So they got a black and white helmet and gold Mandalorian armor. That is sweet. Okay. The nice thing about this tool is it allows you to kind of more custom color your areas. You don't necessarily have to worry about a selection, and if it goes over a little bit, like I'm kind of going into the green areas in places, you see that it doesn't really change anything there because it's just sticking to finding the blue pixels and changing them for yellow pixels. Once you're done, you're going to save this as a Photoshop file, Recolor, or you're going to save this as a JPEG file to turn in. Remember, save it as a JPEG file when you turn it in. If you're going to work on it day to day, save it as a Photoshop file so you get to retain those layers. Recolor, save, remember, drag it to maximum, click OK. I'm going to go to Schoology, and then under Submissions, I'm going to submit that submission there.